I am Jeanette, 32 years old, and I was 7 months pregnant when my world shattered at my own baby shower. As a devoted elementary school teacher, I had been excitedly preparing for the arrival of my first child with my husband Andrew. My closest friends threw me a beautiful baby shower that Saturday afternoon. Little did I know that one gift from my mother-in-law would change everything. If you are watching this, please let me know where you are watching from. Hit the like and subscribe buttons and stay with me as I share how I lost a husband but found my dignity. Growing up in a middle-class family in Connecticut, I always felt loved and supported. My parents, both working professionals, raised me to believe in myself and follow my dreams. From an early age, I had a passion for education. I loved helping others learn and discover new things, which naturally led me to pursue a degree in elementary education. After graduating, I secured a position teaching 3rd grade at a local public school, where I quickly fell in love with my career. My students became like family to me, and I thrived in the classroom environment. My parents, Jack and Susan, were my biggest cheerleaders. They attended every school event when I was growing up, helped me move into my first apartment, and celebrated all my achievements, big or small. We maintained a close relationship even as I grew older, talking several times a week and having Sunday dinners together whenever possible. They always made me feel valued and beautiful just as I was. I met Andrew at an educational conference in Boston 5 years ago. I was attending a workshop on innovative teaching methods when he sat down next to me. Andrew worked for an educational software company, designing programs to help children with reading difficulties. His passion for helping children learn immediately caught my attention. During the lunch break, we struck up a conversation about the workshop content, which naturally evolved into sharing our backgrounds and interests. There was an instant connection between us. Andrew had a warm smile that reached his eyes, and he listened attentively when I spoke about my classroom experiences. He asked thoughtful questions and shared stories about how his software had helped struggling readers. By the end of the conference, we had exchanged numbers and promised to keep in touch. Our relationship developed through phone calls, text messages, and weekend visits. Andrew lived about an hour away from me, but the distance never felt like an obstacle. He would drive to see me after work on Fridays, and we would spend the weekend exploring local attractions, trying new restaurants, or simply enjoying each other's company. Within 6 months, we were officially a couple, and I was falling deeply in love. After dating for a year, Andrew proposed during a picnic at the lake where we had our 3rd date. It was simple and perfect, just like our relationship. I said yes without hesitation, excited to build a future with this kind, intelligent man who seemed to adore me as much as I adored him. The first sign of trouble came when Andrew suggested we visit his mother, Patricia, to share our engagement news in person. He spoke about his mother with such reverence that I was both excited and nervous to meet her. Patricia was a successful real estate agent who had raised Andrew alone after his father passed away when he was 12. According to Andrew, she was strong, independent, and had sacrificed everything to give him a good life. When we arrived at Patricia's immaculate colonial home in an upscale neighborhood, I was immediately intimidated. Patricia greeted us at the door perfectly coiffed and dressed in designer clothes that accentuated her slim figure. Though she was in her early 60s, she looked at least a decade younger. Her home was spotless with expensive furnishings and not a thing out of place. Patricia hugged Andrew warmly and turned to me with a practiced smile that did not reach her eyes. "So this is the teacher," she said, looking me up and down in a way that made me feel instantly self-conscious. Andrew had proudly announced our engagement, showing his mother the modest ring on my finger. Patricia's response was a tight smile and a comment about how quick our relationship had progressed. Throughout that first dinner, Patricia asked probing questions about my family, my career, and my future plans. When I mentioned wanting children, eventually, Patricia glanced at my figure and said, "Well, you will want to watch what you eat then. Pregnancy can ruin a woman's body if she is not careful." I laughed it off nervously, assuming she was just concerned about health. As the evening continued, Patricia made several more subtle comments about my appearance. She asked if I had always been curvy, and suggested a personal trainer who had worked wonders for her friend's daughter. Andrew seemed oblivious to these comments, laughing and saying his mother was always thinking about health and fitness. Before we left, Patricia pulled me aside and pressed a business card into my hand. "This is my nutritionist," she said, "just in case you want to look your best for the wedding photos." I was stunned but thanked her politely, not wanting to create tension with my future mother-in-law. On the drive home, I mentioned Patricia's comments to Andrew, who dismissed them as his mother's way of showing she cared. "Mom just wants everyone to be their best selves, but," he explained, "she does not mean anything hurtful by it." In retrospect, I should have seen these early interactions as red flags. But I was so in love with Andrew and so eager to be accepted by his family that I convinced myself Patricia's behaviour was well-intentioned. I told myself that once she got to know me better, she would see beyond my physical appearance and appreciate me for who I was. How wrong I was to ignore those warning signs. Our wedding was a beautiful spring celebration with about 100 guests. I had found a dress that made me feel beautiful, a flowing Align gown with delicate lace details. When I showed Patricia a photo during the planning process, she had suggested I consider something more slimming and recommended a strict pre-wedding diet. Again, Andrew brushed off my concerns, saying his mother was a perfectionist about everything, not just my appearance. On our wedding day, Patricia looked stunning in an expensive designer dress that emphasized her slim figure. During the reception, I overheard her telling a relative that she was adjusting to the idea of me as a daughter-in-law and that, at least, Andrew was happy. These comments stung, but I was too caught up in the joy of the day to let them ruin my happiness. The first few years of our marriage were largely happy ones. Andrew and I bought a modest 3-bedroom home in a nice neighbourhood with good schools. We both continued our careers, saving money for our future plans. We travelled during summer breaks, explored new hobbies together, and built a comfortable life. Patricia would visit about once a month, and those visits were always stressful for me. She would inspect our home, making subtle comments about my housekeeping or cooking, and find ways to criticise my appearance or weight. Andrew always defended his mother. She had to be both parents to me after Dad died, he would explain. She just shows love through high standards. I tried to understand this perspective, making extra efforts to please Patricia and win her approval. Nothing ever seemed good enough, but I kept trying for Andrew's sake. After 3 years of marriage, Andrew and I decided we were ready to start a family. We were both established in our careers, financially stable, and excited about becoming parents. I stopped taking birth control, and we began trying to conceive. To our delight, I became pregnant within a few months. The day I took the positive pregnancy test, I could not wait for Andrew to get home from work. I prepared a special dinner and placed a tiny pair of baby shoes on his plate as a surprise. When he saw them, his face lit up with joy, and he swept me into a gentle hug, whispering, "We are going to be parents." Telling Patricia about the pregnancy was less joyful. When Andrew called to share the news, she immediately asked if it was planned, and then launched into a lecture about the importance of not letting yourself go during pregnancy. Later that week, a package arrived containing pregnancy fitness DVDs and a book titled How to Avoid Excessive Weight Gain During Pregnancy. Andrew thought it was thoughtful. I felt hurt, but tried to focus on the positive aspects of this new chapter in our lives. My pregnancy was difficult from the start. I experienced severe morning sickness that lasted well into the second trimester. There were days when I could barely keep food down, leading to concerns about proper nutrition for the baby. My doctor reassured me that this was not uncommon and prescribed medication to help manage the symptoms. Despite the challenges, seeing our baby during ultrasound appointments made everything worthwhile. As the morning sickness subsided, I began to gain weight rapidly. My doctor assured me this was my body's way of making up for the earlier difficulties, and that both the baby and I were healthy. However, Patricia had opinions about every aspect of my pregnancy. She would comment on my growing belly, suggesting I was getting too big too fast. She would bring articles about weight management during pregnancy to our dinners and recommend exercises to keep the baby from getting too large. When I was 5 months pregnant, Patricia insisted on accompanying me to an appointment. Without asking, she questioned my doctor about my weight gain, implying I was not taking proper care of myself. The doctor firmly explained that every pregnancy is different and that I was doing well. Patricia seemed dissatisfied with this answer and later told Andrew I needed closer monitoring. Andrew continued to defend his mother's behaviour. "She just wants what is best for you and the baby," he would say whenever I expressed hurt or frustration. "Mum raised me alone and made sure I had the best of everything. That is just how she shows love." I tried to accept this explanation, but as my pregnancy progressed, Patricia's comments became more frequent and more hurtful. My colleagues at school were wonderfully supportive throughout my pregnancy. They organised a baby supplies collection, offered to cover my classes when I had appointments, and constantly checked in on my well-being. My students were excited about teacher Jeanette's baby and would ask questions about the baby's development. Their genuine curiosity and care was a beautiful contrast to Patricia's critical attitude. My parents were equally supportive, helping us prepare the nursery and offering emotional support without judgment. My mother would bring over homemade meals and remind me to rest, while my father assembled baby furniture and painted the nursery. They never once commented on my weight or appearance, focusing instead on my health and happiness. As my due date approached, my best friend Sarah suggested hosting a baby shower. I was initially hesitant, knowing Patricia would attend and potentially make me feel uncomfortable. However, Sarah insisted that this was a special time that should be celebrated. "We will not let anyone ruin this for you," she promised. With her encouragement, I agreed to a small gathering at our home, with close friends, family members, and a few colleagues from school. Sarah and my mother took charge of the planning, creating beautiful invitations, planning games and refreshments, and decorating our home with tasteful baby-themed decorations. The guest list included about 20 women from different parts of my life, including Patricia. Despite my concerns, I was looking forward to celebrating this special time with the people who cared about me and the baby. Little did I know that this joyful occasion would turn into one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. The day of the baby shower arrived and our home was transformed. Sarah and my mother had done an amazing job with the decorations. Soft blue and yellow streamers hung from the ceiling. Adorable stuffed animals were placed strategically around the living room, and a beautiful cake decorated with baby blocks sat on the dining table. A table for gifts was set up near the window, already beginning to fill with beautifully wrapped packages. Guests began arriving around 2 in the afternoon. My colleagues from school came bearing handmade cards from my students. My cousins brought practical gifts like diapers and wipes. Friends from college drove several hours to celebrate with me. Each arrival brought hugs, excitement, and genuine happiness for this new chapter in my life. Andrew greeted everyone warmly before heading out to give us girl time, planning to return toward the end of the party. My mother and Sarah had organized several games that had everyone laughing. We played Guess the Baby Food, where blindfolded guests had to identify different types of baby food by taste. We measured my belly with string and had everyone guess the length. There was a game where guests had to race to change diapers on baby dolls. The atmosphere was light, joyful, and exactly what I had hoped for. The food was delicious and plentiful. We had finger sandwiches, fruit platters, vegetable trays with dips, and an assortment of pastries. My mother had made her famous punch that everyone loved. As I looked around at the smiling faces of the women who had come to celebrate with me, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Patricia arrived an hour late, making a grand entrance in a designer outfit that looked more appropriate for a business meeting than a casual baby shower. She carried a large, expensively wrapped gift box. Conversation momentarily halted as she surveyed the room with a slightly disapproving expression. "Sorry I am late," she announced. "The traffic was terrible, and I had to make a stop to pick up something special for my daughter-in-law." My mother graciously offered Patricia some food and introduced her to guests she had not met before. Patricia made polite conversation, but I could sense her judging everything from the decorations to the refreshments. She made a point of taking only a small portion of fruit, refusing the cake when it was offered. "I have to watch my figure," she said loudly enough for me to hear. "Some habits are worth maintaining throughout life." After everyone had eaten, Sarah announced it was time to open gifts. I sat in a decorated chair in the center of the room with guests gathered around. Each gift was thoughtful and perfect, from tiny clothes to handmade blankets, parenting books, and practical items we would need. With each gift, I expressed genuine gratitude, touched by the love and support surrounding us. Patricia insisted her gift be opened last. "Save the best for last," she said with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. When all other gifts had been opened and admired, she ceremoniously handed me the large box. "This is something you will really need after the baby comes," she announced to the room. I put a lot of thought into it. The box was heavy and beautifully wrapped in silver paper with a large blue bow. As I began to unwrap it, Patricia stood directly in front of me, watching my face intently. Inside the box was another smaller box, which contained an envelope and a glossy brochure. Confusion washed over me as I opened the envelope and pulled out a membership card to an exclusive gym in our area, along with a certificate for 10 personal training sessions. The brochure was for a post-pregnancy body recovery program. A handwritten note was attached. "For after the baby comes, no one wants to see a flabby new mum. This will help you get your body back quickly so Andrew does not lose interest. Love, Patricia." The room fell completely silent. I stared at the gift in disbelief, my cheeks burning with humiliation. Someone gasped softly. I looked up to find every eye in the room on me, expressions ranging from shock to outrage to pity. My hands began to tremble as I tried to process what was happening. Patricia broke the silence. "Well, is not it perfect?" she asked with a wide smile. "I know how important it is for young mothers to get back in shape quickly after giving birth. No one wants to let themselves go just because they had a baby." She turned to address the room. "The trainers at this gym are miracle workers. My friend Judith was back to her pre-pregnancy weight within 2 months of having her son. The membership includes childcare, so there are no excuses." I sat frozen, unable to form words. My mother stepped forward, her face tight with controlled anger. "Patricia, that is inappropriate," she said quietly. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, do not be so sensitive. We all know pregnancy weight can be stubborn. Jeanette needs to be prepared." She looked directly at me, adding, "You have already gained quite a bit more than the recommended amount. This will help you undo the damage." Something inside me snapped. The cumulative weight of years of subtle insults, passive-aggressive comments, and thinly veiled criticism came crashing down. I stood up, still clutching the gym membership in my hand. "Patricia," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the emotion churning inside me, "I need you to leave my home right now." Patricia's eyes widened in shock. "Excuse me." "You heard me," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "I want you to leave. This gift is not about my health or well-being. It is meant to humiliate me, and I will not accept it." Patricia's face hardened. "I am only thinking of your best interest, and Andrew's. Men are visual creatures, you know. No man wants a wife who lets herself go." Get out," I repeated, tears now streaming down my face. "Get out of my house." The room was dead silent. Patricia looked around, seemingly expecting someone to defend her. When no one did, her expression changed to one of manufactured hurt. "Well," she said, gathering her designer purse. "I can see when I am not wanted. I was only trying to help." She turned to my mother. "You should have taught your daughter better manners." My friend Sarah stepped forward. "I will walk you out, Patricia," she said firmly, gesturing toward the door. Patricia glanced around the room one more time before allowing Sarah to escort her out. As the front door closed, I collapsed back into the chair, shaking with emotion. The guests exchanged uncomfortable glances, no one quite sure what to do next. My mother knelt beside me, taking my hand. "I am so sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. "What she did was cruel and completely unacceptable." Just then, Andrew walked in, having returned early to join the end of the party. He looked confused at the tense atmosphere. "What is going on?" he asked, looking around the room. "I just saw my mother leaving. She seemed upset." Sarah stepped forward. "Andrew, can we talk to you privately for a minute?" She nodded toward the kitchen. Andrew followed her, and my mother, leaving me with the other guests, who were trying their best to comfort me and normalize the situation. Minutes later, I heard raised voices from the kitchen. Andrew appeared in the doorway, his face flushed with anger. He beckoned to me. "Jeanette, can I speak with you now?" I excused myself and followed him to our bedroom, away from the guests. As soon as the door closed behind us, Andrew turned to me. "Why would you humiliate my mother like that in front of everyone?" I stared at him in disbelief. "Humiliate her? Did Sarah tell you what she did?" "She told me Mom gave you a gym membership," he said. "And you overreacted and kicked her out." I showed him the note that came with the gift. "She gave me this in front of all our friends and family, Andrew. She called me fat. She implied you would lose interest in me because of my pregnancy weight." Andrew ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "You know how Mom is. She just wants what is best for everyone. She probably thought she was being helpful." "Helpful?" I repeated incredulously. "How is humiliating me at my own baby shower helpful?" "You are being too sensitive," Andrew insisted. "Pregnancy hormones are making you overreact. Mom put a lot of thought into that gift. It was expensive." I could not believe what I was hearing. So I should just accept being publicly shamed because the gift was expensive. "Your mother has been making comments about my weight since the day we met." This was the final straw. Andrew's expression hardened. "You need to apologize to her." "Apologize?" I was almost shouting now. "For what? Standing up for myself? No, Andrew. I will not apologize for having self-respect." "Then I do not know what to tell you," he said coldly. "Mom has always been there for me. Always. I will not turn my back on her because you cannot take constructive feedback." I felt like I had been slapped. Constructive feedback, is that what you call public humiliation? Tears were streaming down my face again. "Go home to your mother if that is how you feel. I need you to leave right now." "This is my house too," Andrew protested. "And there is a room full of people out there who just witnessed your mother's cruelty," I replied. Either you support me right now or you leave until this party is over. Those are your choices. Andrew stared at me for a long moment before grabbing his keys. I will be at my mother's. Call me when you have calmed down and are ready to be reasonable. With that, he stormed out of the bedroom and left the house. I stood alone in our bedroom, arms wrapped protectively around my pregnant belly, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. My husband had just chosen his mother over me and our unborn child. The baby kicked as if reminding me I was not truly alone. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and returned to my guests, determined to get through the remainder of the shower with as much dignity as possible. After all the guests had left, I sat alone in the living room, surrounded by baby gifts, feeling completely numb. The beautiful celebration had ended in disaster, and I could not stop replaying the humiliating moment in my mind. The decorations that had seemed so cheerful just hours before now felt like mockery of the happy family life I had envisioned. My phone rang, displaying Sarah's name. I answered, grateful to hear my best friend's voice. Jeanette, are you okay? I have been worried about you. I broke down immediately. He left Sarah. He went to Patricia's house. He took her side. Oh, honey, Sarah's voice was full of concern. Do you want me to come back over? You should not be alone right now. No, I replied, wiping away tears. I need some time to process everything, but thank you for offering. Listen to me, Sarah said firmly. What Patricia did was completely unacceptable. Any decent person can see that, and Andrew... She hesitated. Andrew is wrong too. Do not let either of them make you doubt yourself. We talked for nearly an hour with Sarah, reassuring me that my reaction had been completely justified. By the time we hung up, I felt marginally better, though the hurt and betrayal remained. I sent a group text thanking everyone for coming and apologising for the uncomfortable end to the party. The responses were overwhelmingly supportive, with friends and family expressing outrage on my behalf and offering help. I spent a restless night alone in our bed, my mind racing with questions about the future of my marriage. How could Andrew fail to see how hurtful his mother's behaviour had been? How could he choose her over me and our baby? Would he ever see Patricia's actions for what they truly were? Andrew returned home the following morning, looking tired, but no less stubborn. He placed his keys on the counter and stood awkwardly in the kitchen while I made tea. Have you calmed down? He asked, breaking the tense silence. I was never not calm, I replied evenly. I was hurt. I still am. Andrew sighed heavily. Look, I talked with Mom last night. She feels terrible that you misunderstood her intentions. She really was trying to be helpful. Misunderstood her intentions, I repeated incredulously. Did you show her the note she wrote about how you would lose interest in me if I did not lose the baby weight immediately? She was exaggerating to make a point about health, Andrew insisted. Mum has always been health conscious. It is how she raised me. This is not about health, Andrew. It is about her systematically undermining my self-esteem since the day we met. It is about her publicly humiliating me at an event meant to celebrate our baby. Andrew ran a hand through his hair in frustration. She is my mother, Jeanette. What do you expect me to do? Cut her out of our lives? I expect you to stand up for your wife and child, I replied, my voice breaking. I expect you to recognize when someone is being cruel, even if that someone is your mother. You are asking me to choose between you and Mom. No, I am asking you to choose what is right. I am asking you to be a husband and father first before being a son. Andrew was silent for a long moment. Mom wants an apology from you before she will come back to our house. I stared at him in disbelief. She wants me to apologize for what exactly? Refusing to be publicly shamed. For overreacting and embarrassing her in front of everyone. I felt a surge of anger mixed with profound disappointment. I will not apologize for standing up for myself. If anyone deserves an apology, it is me. Andrew's expression hardened. Then we are at an impasse. He grabbed his laptop and headed to the guest room where he spent the rest of the day. That night, he slept on the couch without discussion, establishing a new pattern that would continue in the days that followed. The week after the baby shower was one of the most stressful of my life. Andrew and I barely spoke, exchanging only necessary information about household matters. He continued sleeping on the couch, leaving for work early and returning home late. I could tell he was communicating regularly with Patricia, as he would often end phone calls abruptly when I entered the room. Meanwhile, Patricia had apparently been busy contacting other family members. Andrew's aunt called to tell me I had disrespected Patricia and should make amends. His cousin sent a text suggesting I was being hormonal and should apologize before I destroyed the family. Even Andrew's elderly grandmother called, though her message was more balanced, suggesting that Both sides might need to listen to each other better. The stress was taking a physical toll. I developed headaches and had trouble sleeping. Concerned about how this might affect the baby, I scheduled an appointment with my obstetrician, who confirmed my blood pressure was elevated. She advised rest and stress reduction, which seemed impossible given the circumstances. She referred me to a counsellor who specialised in pregnancy-related issues, suggesting that professional support might help me navigate this difficult time. One evening, about 10 days after the baby shower incident, I came home from a counselling session feeling emotionally drained, but somewhat clearer about my boundaries. I heard Andrew's voice as I entered the house. He was on the phone in the kitchen, unaware of my arrival. Normally, I would have announced my presence, but something made me pause and listen. "I know, Mum," Andrew was saying, his voice tired. "She is being completely unreasonable." A pause. "Yes, I have tried talking to her. She refuses to apologize." Another pause. "I know you were just trying to help. That is what I told her too." I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart pounding as I continued to listen. She is just so sensitive lately. Everything makes her cry or get angry. It is like walking on eggshells. A longer pause. "I know that is what I am worried about too. If she is this difficult now, what is it going to be like when the baby comes?" Patricia must have said something in response, because Andrew laughed softly. "You warned me, did not you? You told me I should think carefully before marrying someone who does not take care of herself." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I leaned against the wall, trying to steady myself as Andrew continued. "I do not know, Mum. I am starting to think I need to really evaluate my options here. This is not what I signed up for." Another pause. "No, of course I would still support the baby. I am not that kind of guy. But I cannot live like this indefinitely." Tears streamed down my face as the full impact of his words hit me. My husband was considering leaving me while I was 7 months pregnant with his child. He was discussing this with the very person who had caused the rift between us. And he saw me, not Patricia's behaviour or his own failure to stand up for his family, as the problem. I must have made a sound because Andrew suddenly stopped talking. "Mum, I have to go. I will call you back later." He ended the call and turned to find me standing in the doorway, tears streaming down my face. "How long have you been standing there?" he demanded, his face flushing with guilt. "Long enough," I whispered. "Long enough to hear that you are evaluating your options. Long enough to hear that you think I am the problem in this marriage." Andrew had the grace to look ashamed, but his defensive posture remained. "You should not eavesdrop on private conversations." "Private conversations about leaving your pregnant wife," I shot back. "I think I have a right to know about those." "I did not say I was leaving," he protested weakly. "I said I was evaluating options." While complaining to the very person who has been undermining our marriage from day one, I added, my voice rising with emotion. The person who publicly humiliated me and has never shown me an ounce of genuine respect or affection. Andrew's jaw tightened. "Do not talk about my mother that way." In that moment, something shifted inside me. A clarity I had never felt before washed over me as I realized this cycle would never end. Patricia would always come first for Andrew. He would never truly see her behavior for what it was, and I deserved better than to be constantly devalued and dismissed. "I am going to bed," I said quietly. "We will talk tomorrow." That night, I could not sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying the conversation I had overheard and thinking about the future. By morning, I had made a decision. I spent the day writing Andrew a letter, pouring out everything I felt, everything I had experienced with Patricia, and everything I needed from a partner. I explained how his failure to stand up for me had broken my trust and my heart. I told him I needed space to think about whether our marriage could be saved. When he came home from work that evening, the letter was waiting on the kitchen table. I had already packed a suitcase and called my parents to ask if I could stay with them for a while. My father was on his way to pick me up. "What is this?" Andrew asked, looking from the letter to my suitcase. "I am going to stay with my parents for a while," I said calmly. "I need space to think. The letter explains everything." "You cannot just leave," Andrew protested, panic rising in his voice. "We need to talk about this." "We have talked," I replied. "You have made your position clear. Now I need time to consider mine." "Is this about the phone call, Fitz?" he asked. "I was just venting. I did not mean what I said." "This is about much more than one phone call," I said, placing a protective hand on my belly. "This is about patterns that have been present since the beginning of our relationship. Patterns I cannot live with anymore." Andrew's expression darkened. "So you are just running away back to Mommy and Daddy instead of working on our marriage." The cruel irony of his accusation was not lost on me. "That is exactly what you did after the baby shower." I pointed out. You ran to your mother instead of supporting your wife. Before Andrew could respond, a car horn sounded outside. My father had arrived. I picked up my suitcase, feeling oddly calm despite the enormity of what I was doing. Please read the letter, I said. Really read it. And then think about what kind of husband and father you want to be. Andrew followed me to the door. Jeanette, do not do this. What about the baby? What about our family? I am thinking of the baby, I replied, tears finally breaking through my composed facade. I am thinking about what kind of environment our child deserves to grow up in, an environment of respect, support, and unconditional love. As I got into my father's car, I saw Andrew standing in the doorway, looking lost. Part of me wanted to run back to him to try once more to make him understand, but a stronger part knew I was making the right choice, not just for me, but for my unborn child as well. My father drove in silence for several minutes before asking gently, "Are you okay, sweetheart?" "No," I answered honestly, "but I think I will be." That evening, after I had settled into my old bedroom at my parents' house, the calls and texts from Andrew began. At first they were angry and accusatory, then they became pleading and apologetic. I responded only to let him know I was safe, but needed time. I did not know if our marriage could be saved, but I knew I needed distance to see the situation clearly. The next morning, an unexpected call came. It was Patricia, her voice cold and controlled. "How dare you abandon my son?" she began without preamble. "After everything he has done for you." I was too exhausted for another confrontation. "Patricia, I am not discussing this with you. This is between Andrew and me. That baby you are carrying is my grandchild," she continued as if I had not spoken. "If you think you can keep my grandchild from me, you are mistaken. I will take legal action if necessary." The threat sent a chill through me. "Are you threatening to sue me for custody of a child that has not even been born yet?" "I am informing you of the consequences of your actions," Patricia replied. "Andrew is devastated. You have broken up our family with your selfishness and oversensitivity." I ended the call without another word, my hands shaking. The idea that Patricia might try to use legal means to insert herself into my child's life terrified me. That afternoon, I contacted a family law attorney recommended by a colleague. I needed to understand my rights and protect myself and my baby from Patricia's manipulations and threats. The next 3 months were a blur of legal consultations, doctor's appointments, and emotional turbulence. Despite the stress, I remained focused on my primary goal, bringing a healthy baby into the world. My parents were my rock during this time, providing practical support and unwavering love. My mother accompanied me to every doctor's appointment, while my father helped prepare the nursery in their guest room. In the midst of this personal crisis, I was touched by the outpouring of support from friends and colleagues. Sarah visited often, bringing humour and perspective when I needed it most. My fellow teachers organised a meal train so that I would have home-cooked food throughout the first weeks after the baby's birth. Even my students sent handmade cards with their innocent well wishes, unaware of the adult complications, but full of excitement for teacher Jeanette's baby. Andrew's initial flood of calls and texts gradually reduced to occasional check-ins about the pregnancy. He attended one doctor's appointment, sitting awkwardly beside me as we listened to the baby's heartbeat. Afterward, he asked if we could talk. We sat in a nearby cafe, the weight of unspoken words between us. "I miss you," he said simply. "I want you to come home." "What about your mother?" I asked. "Has anything changed there?" Andrew looked down at his coffee. "I have talked to her about being more respectful to you. And she says she will try, but she thinks you are being too sensitive about everything." I nodded slowly, unsurprised. "And what do you think, Andrew? Do you still think I am overreacting?" He hesitated, which was answer enough. "I think we can work through this," he said finally, "for the baby's sake. I will not raise our child in an environment where I am constantly disrespected and undermined," I told him. "I will not teach our son or daughter that it is acceptable to treat people that way or to accept such treatment." "So you are choosing to break up our family?" Andrew's voice held an edge of accusation. "No," I replied calmly. "I am choosing to create a healthy environment for our child with or without you. The choice to be part of that is yours, but it requires real change, not just temporary compromises." Andrew left that meeting frustrated, and I returned to my parents' home with a heavy heart but a clear conscience. I was doing what I believed was right, even though it was painfully hard. 2 weeks before my due date, I received legal notice that Patricia had consulted an attorney about grandparents' rights. Though my own attorney assured me such claims had little merit given the circumstances, especially since I was not denying Andrew access to his child. The aggressive move confirmed I was making the right decision in establishing firm boundaries. On a crisp October morning, after a relatively short labour, I gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby girl whom I named Lily. Despite our strained relationship, Andrew was present for the birth, holding my hand and crying when he first held his daughter. For a brief shining moment, I thought perhaps the miracle of new life might heal the rifts between us. That hope was short-lived. While I was still in the hospital, Patricia arrived unannounced bearing gifts and an attitude of entitlement. She barely acknowledged me, focusing entirely on the baby and speaking to the nurses as if she were the primary family member. When she asked to hold Lily, I did not object, wanting to keep the peace. But when she began criticizing how I had swaddled the baby and suggesting I was holding her incorrectly, the nurse intervened politely but firmly, telling Patricia that new mothers needed positive support, not criticism. Andrew said nothing during this exchange, staring uncomfortably at his phone. Later, when Patricia had left, I asked him point blank if this was the pattern we could expect moving forward. His non-answer told me everything I needed to know. 2 days later, I went home to my parents' house, with Lily beginning life as a single mother. The early weeks with a newborn were exhausting but filled with joy. Lily was a good baby, nursing well and sleeping in 3 to 4 hour stretches. My parents were wonderful, helping with midnight feedings and household chores so I could recover and bond with my daughter. Andrew visited every few days, clearly loving Lily, but still unable to fully acknowledge the issues that had driven us apart. When Lily was 6 weeks old, I received formal divorce papers from Andrew's lawyer. Though I had known this was coming, seeing it in official legal form was still a blow. The petition included standard terms for shared custody, but also contained language clearly influenced by Patricia, including restrictions on where I could live with Lily and requirements for regular visits with paternal family members. My attorney helped me negotiate a more reasonable agreement that protected both my parental rights and Andrew's, while limiting Patricia's ability to control our co-parenting relationship. The process was emotionally draining, but necessary. By the time Lily was 6 months old, our divorce was finalized, and we had established a co-parenting routine that, while not perfect, was workable. Throughout this difficult time, I focused on healing and rebuilding. I joined a support group for single mothers, where I found comfort in sharing experiences with women facing similar challenges. I returned to teaching part-time when Lily was 4 months old, grateful for a principal who arranged a schedule that accommodated my new life as a single parent. Slowly, I began to recognize the strength I had found through adversity. I was managing on my own, creating a loving home for my daughter, maintaining my career, and establishing healthy boundaries. The woman who had once desperately sought Patricia's approval now stood firmly in her own worth, unshaken by criticism or judgment. When Lily was 8 months old, the final confrontation with Patricia came during a custody exchange. Andrew was running late, so I found myself alone with Patricia in the parking lot of a local coffee shop. She looked me up and down critically and said, "I see you still have not lost the baby weight. Such a shame. In the past, such a comment would have devastated me. This time I simply smiled. Patricia, I grew and birthed a human being. My body did exactly what it was supposed to do. I am not ashamed of that, and your opinion on my appearance is irrelevant to me now." Patricia seemed taken aback by my calm response. "Andrew would have stayed if you had made more effort," she said, trying another angle. "No," I replied, looking her directly in the eye. "Andrew would have stayed if he had been strong enough to be a husband and father first, rather than a perpetually obedient son. That failure is not on me." For once, Patricia had no response. When Andrew arrived minutes later, he found us in silence, the power dynamic between us fundamentally altered. As he took Lily for his visitation time, I walked away with my head held high, finally free from the need for approval from either of them. It has been nearly 2 years since that baby shower that changed the course of my life. Lily is a bright, curious toddler who fills my days with laughter and wonder. She splits her time between my home, a cozy apartment near the elementary school where I now teach full-time, and Andrew's house, where Patricia visits regularly, but is not allowed to be alone with Lily, a boundary I insisted upon after overhearing her criticizing Lily's chubby legs during a visit. The divorce was finalized when Lily was 6 months old. Though painful, the process taught me valuable lessons about standing up for myself and recognizing my own worth. Andrew and I maintain a civil co-parenting relationship focused solely on Lily's well-being. He has gradually begun to see some of his mother's toxic behaviors, especially as they now sometimes target his parenting decisions. Recently, he apologized for not supporting me during pregnancy, though he stopped short of acknowledging the full pattern of his mother's behaviour. My healing journey has been gradual but profound. At first, I struggled with feelings of failure and self-doubt. Had I done enough to save my marriage? Could I have handled things differently? Through therapy and the support of loved ones, I came to recognise that I had done everything possible. The breakdown of our marriage was not due to my unwillingness to accept disrespect, but rather Andrew's unwillingness to establish healthy boundaries with his mother. The early days of single parenthood were challenging. There were nights when Lily would not stop crying, and I felt completely overwhelmed. There were mornings when I barely had time to shower before rushing to work, dropping Lily at daycare and teaching a full day of classes. But each challenge I overcame added to my growing sense of capability and independence. My support network proved invaluable during this time. My parents remained my biggest allies, providing childcare, emotional support, and a safe space when I needed it. Sarah visited weekly, bringing coffee and adult conversation when I was desperate for both. My colleagues covered classes when Lily was sick, and my principal arranged my schedule to accommodate single parenthood. I also found unexpected support in a single parents group I joined when Lily was 3 months old. Meeting other mothers and fathers navigating similar challenges provided perspective and practical advice. In this group, I met Tara, a single mother of twins who became a close friend and reliable source of both humour and wisdom about parenting alone. Gradually, I rebuilt my life on my own terms. I redecorated our apartment, creating a space that reflected my personality and provided a warm, nurturing environment for Lily. I reconnected with old hobbies and interests that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. I even started dating again cautiously and casually, reminding myself that I was not just a mother, but also a woman with her own needs and desires. The most significant change, however, has been internal. The woman who once sought validation and approval from a critical mother-in-law has been replaced by someone who knows her own worth. I no longer shrink myself to make others comfortable. I no longer apologize for taking up space in the world. This transformation was put to the test 6 months ago during a court hearing regarding a modification to our custody agreement. Patricia attended with Andrew, presumably to intimidate me. As we waited in the courthouse hallway, she approached me with her usual critical gaze. "You look tired," she observed with feigned concern. "Is single motherhood proving too difficult?" Just a few years earlier, such a comment would have crushed me. Now I simply smiled. "I am thriving, Patricia, but thank you for your concern." She seemed momentarily thrown by my confidence. Lily seems to be developing quite slowly compared to other children her age. She continued trying another angle. "Perhaps if you read to her more." According to her pediatrician, Lily is ahead of developmental milestones in most areas, I replied calmly, "but I will be sure to mention your concerns at her next checkup." Patricia's face tightened with frustration at her inability to provoke me. In that moment, I realized how completely I had broken free from her power. Her words could no longer reach me because I no longer sought or needed her approval. I had found something far more valuable: self-acceptance and inner peace. The hearing went in my favour, with the judge complimenting both Andrew and me on our cooperative co-parenting, despite our differences. As we left the courthouse, I caught Patricia watching me with an expression I could not quite read. Perhaps it was respect, or perhaps it was simply the recognition that I was no longer under her thumb. Looking back now, I can see that the gym membership given so cruelly at my baby shower was ironically a gift after all. Not in the way Patricia intended, but in the way it forced me to confront the unhealthy dynamics in my marriage and find the strength to demand better for myself and my child. It was the catalyst for a painful but necessary transformation. Would I have preferred a different path? Of course. In my dreams, Andrew would have stood up to his mother, set healthy boundaries, and been the partner I needed. We would be raising Lily together in a home filled with mutual respect and support. But I have made peace with the reality that this was never possible with the man Andrew was, at least not then. Instead, I have created a life filled with genuine love and respect. Lily is growing up seeing her mother stand tall, speak her truth, and demand dignity. She is learning that her worth is not determined by others' opinions of her appearance or accomplishments. These are lessons I hope will serve her well throughout her life. As for me, I have learned that sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to something even better. I lost a husband but kept my dignity. I lost a marriage but gained a sense of self-worth that can never be taken away. I lost a future I had planned but found the strength to create a new one on my own terms. If you are facing a similar situation, struggling with toxic relationships, or people who try to diminish your worth, I hope my story gives you courage. Standing up for yourself is never easy, but living a life of quiet desperation is far harder in the long run. You deserve respect. You deserve love. And sometimes finding those things requires letting go of people who cannot or will not provide them. I would love to hear your thoughts on this story. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your dignity? What did you choose and how did it turn out? Please leave a comment below sharing your experience. If this story resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of finding strength through adversity. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the most beautiful destinations.